we were saying the main thing, just the sweatiness and the lying, that's sort of normal for Trump, but it was the amount of dangerous misinformation, not just lies, but dangerous lies that are going to get more people killed, dangerous medical misinformation, again, about COVID last night. So, who brought to mind would be, our former Health and Human Services Secretary under Bill Clinton, and now Congresswoman from the great state of Florida, right where Trump was last night.
I believe it was in her district.
And I have materialized her into being on the Stephanie Miller Show. Representative Donna Shalala. Good morning, Secretary.
Good morning. I'm a big fan.
Oh, my God. Aww. Well, now, how could I love you more? No. But yeah, go ahead.
The fight song that you just played is actually my ring song.
No way. That's amazing.
Hooray. And thank you for fighting for us every day. I don't even know where we start. Dr. Redlener I'm sure you know who he is. Erwin Redlener is on my show every week, and obviously one of the top infectious disease experts in the world. And Secretary, he wrote a piece that really called on Fauci and Birx and everybody in Redfield to step down and speak out before the election, because at this point, the president is putting out so much dangerous medical misinformation on a daily basis, right? He is not going to listen to them. He is not going to change. The only way we change trajectory is by electing Joe Biden, right? And so they have a duty to warn. I think they have a duty to first do no harm. What do you think?
Well, I think Tony Fauci has been doing that as much as he possibly can.
Yeah.
He's worked for numerous administrations, and he has called them out. But remember, everybody has called them out. They pay no attention. It's the cruelest administration that I've ever seen. As much as Ronald Reagan wouldn't mention the word AIDS, this administration, people are dying because of their inept response, and we're trying to put a package together to save families from going into poverty, and we can't even get them to respond in a reasonable way.
And Secretary, isn't this right where, the rubber meets the road? It's just in this, Captain Chaos, who is, in the Oval Office. So Trump called yesterday for even more stimulus spending than Steve Mnuchin proposed in talks with Nancy Pelosi, injecting more chaos into the unruly negotiations as the election nears, as I'm reading the latest news story about it. I'd take more, I'd go higher, said Trump. He says he's communicated his views to Mnuchin. I told him, and so far he hasn't come home with the bacon. Trump seems unaware or indifferent to the GOP objections to big new spending. He said the Republicans are very willing to do it, insisting Pelosi's standing in the way because she's got mental problems. Well, he doesn't even understand what his own party is for or is doing, does he?
No,
the Senate doesn't want to pass
care.
this.
He really doesn't care.
Right.
Really doesn't care. It's a sound bite.
Right.
And it's chaotic. Joe Biden says that we're fighting for the soul of America. I think this election's about life and death.
Yeah. Literally. Literally.
Literally.
How much did this story enrage you that just came out yesterday? Trump White House's economic advisors were privately warning conservative insiders and wealthy donors of the uncertainty of the COVID outbreak in late February, even as the president was trying to reassure the public everything was fine and the virus would soon disappear. This disconnect helped tip off GOP elites and well-connected traders who got an early warning about a possible unprecedented market crash. Obviously, Larry Kudlow among those people. If this doesn't enrage people even further, right? It particularly with not getting any COVID relief for normal people, right?
He cuts taxes for the rich. So who's surprised that his staff notifies them that chaos is coming?
Yeah.
And that this is a serious virus. Who's surprised?
But
that's their constituency.
Yeah. Secretary, a lot of us,
Wall Street.
right? A lot of us, many of us have loved ones we haven't seen in almost a year, and the clock is ticking, and this is just, I mean, the latest story, the officials at CDC are feeling demoralized because Trump officials have been imposing line-by-line edits to their official health recommendations during the pandemic. They've been subjected to extraordinary pressure from the Trump White House that has included edits aimed at altering language written by CDC scientists on church choirs, social distancing in bars and restaurants, on and on. I mean, this is just, it is just an ongoing nightmare that they're actively making worse, aren't they?
Absolutely. But again, it's about life and death. It's about, it's so fundamental. And if voters don't see it, that more people are going to die, that this is more than a spike. We have not starved this virus in the United States of America. Some states have tried and have done a pretty good job, but then it's because what happens in Wuhan doesn't stay in Wuhan.
Right.
What happens in Los Angeles doesn't stay in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Unless you have a national response, you cannot starve this virus.
Well, international response, right, Secretary? I mean, that's part of what he doesn't get in this whole America First thing is that unless we as a world confront this crisis and get everybody vaccinated, it's just going to keep circulating, right? So it was like their strategy that, it only hit blue states, who cares? They really don't understand the science enough to know that it was going to go to red states, which are now even harder hit than blue states, right?
Yeah, I looked at the path of this virus, and it reminded me of AIDS, which started on the West Coast and the East Coast and spread across the country. Now, that changed the politics because it was people that we knew, whether we lived in California or New York. I don't get it. He is totally out of it.
Yeah.
Dangerous and a dangerous president, and more people are going to die. And to push this many people into poverty is just cruel.
Can you explain, because again, in terms of not just really dangerous misinformation that is going to, as you say, get more people killed, him talking about this 85% of people who wear masks get coronavirus, I mean, that was so irresponsible, right, and completely misrepresented this study.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in science. He misinterprets it. He passes out misinformation that results in people getting sick and dying.
Right.
And he's running around the country, including in my district, having rallies and spreading the disease. Who ever heard of a president spreading the disease?
Yeah, personally.
By moving around the country, personally.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Putting rallies together in which he is spreading the disease. It's a Trump spread now.
Yeah.
A Trump spread.
Secretary, are you optimistic about the election? Are you? I think the number of forces of voter suppression, Russian interference, which again, White House. Here's the headline today: White House was warned Giuliani was the target of Russian intelligence operation to feed misinformation to Trump, and yet here we are with this last minute, trying to smear Joe Biden and his son with a complete, an obvious Russian misinformation campaign, right?
I think Americans have made up their minds that it's time for him to go.
Yeah.
I think Floridians have made up their minds. Now, Florida is always a 1% state. But boy, are we going to turn out our voters.
Yeah. Biden is up by 5 in the latest poll I saw in Florida. Is that what you're hearing?
Yes, exactly. My district is on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, and they're saying if it's Florida as you said, if Florida goes, it's over. But and it's, are you, Representative, are you confident we're doing enough to combat all of the ways they are going to try to illegally interfere with this election?
I'm confident that we've put in place everything we can possibly put in place. But here's the problem: we wanted to put a lot more money into these elections. Into buying equipment, into hiring people. That was in the HEROES Act, and they've stopped us. But in South Florida, we've got a pretty good operation. We've got lawyers all over the place, and we're going to pull out every vote we can possibly vote.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's not Democratic voters because we're split between Democrats and Republicans. It's the independents that we're going to get because they're disgusted.
Yeah. Well, and I thought last night, I don't know what you watched, but I mean, it just, this did not help. They were saying that the Biden town hall was a 90-minute ad for Biden, and the Trump town hall was a 60-minute ad for Biden. Right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He doesn't. I mean, I know the Proud Boys because they've interrupted my campaign on a couple of occasions. They're racist, sexist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't care whether the leader is a Hispanic. That's what they are.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
scream the worst, and they marched in Charlottesville with those that were saying the Jews are not going to replace us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
if the Jewish community doesn't get the message that this administration is not anything other than led by people who have the worst kind of anti-Semitism, homophobia, sexism, and racism, I don't know what will.
yeah. Well, Secretary, I keep saying this is 2016 literally on steroids. He's on steroids. And, it's Pizzagate, but QAnon is also the eating of babies, drinking their blood. And, I mean, he is retweeting every crazy conspiracy theory that, Osama bin Laden's still alive, and it was a body double. And, I mean, this has gotten so insane to the fact that they're trying to rush through a Supreme Court justice to hopefully appoint him president despite losing the election. I mean, it really is sort of terrifying, this confluence of factors. They're putting up fake ballot boxes out here in California. Republicans are, cutting a cable in, where was it, Virginia, on the last day of registration. They're trying to make sure there's no drop boxes. They're trying to destroy the post office. I mean, we really are in the fight of our lives, and the only thing to do is turn out in huge numbers and vote early, right? Vote early and in massive numbers.
That's exactly right. We expect 75% of our vote to occur before Election Day. Republicans tend to vote on Election Day, so we're turning out our voters early, and we do have drop boxes for early voting,
right?
Where people can go to early voting sites. So I'm hopeful about Florida.
Wow.
We deliver Florida, we stop him.
It's about time that Florida did the right thing and not give us a heart attack on Election Day, for God's sake, Secretary Shalala. You're in charge.
I'll take that responsibility serious.
Yeah.
Secretary Shalala, always a pleasure. Thanks for taking time for us.
You're welcome.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. There she goes from the great Florida's 27th district.
Yes.